future of the industry will be a great deal more change than we've seen in this year.
The ongoing decline in traditional office products driven by the digitisation of the office.
We'll see more M&A, we'll see more channel change, and I think it's very exciting, very interesting.
The most important thing I think we need to be able to do as an industry is be able to adapt to those changes.
I think we've got to diversify in terms of what we sell. I think we've got to look and understand how a customer buys, not only now but in the future, and really think quickly about how we plan the developments of our businesses and as an industry together to meet those needs. I think we've got an array of opportunities within the office products market for the future.
Adjacent product categories where there's £5 billion respective markets in both facility supplies and technology.
And I think the threats really come from the major online players who are coming and taking the space.
We're going to see a huge amount of consolidation, and that provides both opportunities and threats.
I think the big threat is doing nothing. So I think those that operate within this space that don't adopt change over the next year or two will probably see the most challenges.
I see the role of BOSS as being the voice of the industry and in organising these kind of events where we can debate the future of the industry and hopefully come up with some actions to improve things going forward.
It's a forum where we can share ideas and collaborate, and it can help bring us together as an industry and help figure out the future.
I think the BOSS Federation should help support, lead and communicate that need for change.
I think as an independent body, it can justify calling to action all elements of the industry so that we can work together for the benefit of all of us in the future.
What we know is that our world is changing, the office products world is changing. And basically, during the course of today, you're going to be hearing lots of different views from the whole supply chain. Listen, question, and understand how these changes affect your business and what you can do differently going forward to make these changes work for you as opposed to working against you.
I am 28 years in the office products industry, and it's been about adapting and about change management even in those 28 years. The reality is, though, that the next 28 will be even more eventful, I fear. And currently the 16 to 20-year-old group have grown up with a limited appreciation of the hard copy, of paper. In fact, they're very used to working with electronic devices, tablets particularly in recent years. And they are coming to a workplace near us very soon, the so-called millennium babies. And that will have a big impact on our industry and the mix of products within it. And what we've seen in the last 30 years, and indeed particularly the last 5 to 10 years, is an explosion of technology and one of innovation. And of course, it's a big wide world out there, and we need an appetite for change. So let's do it, and let's talk about it today before it's done to us. Technology and consumer behaviour is clearly changing. In the top there, we will see obviously desktop computers and how we've moved very quickly through time, through laptops and now to tablets, and who knows what the future holds. In terms of traditional office products and office products in general, it has declined. Pre-internet interruption market, I think we had a buyer that was relatively uninformed. The buyer journey was linear, and the marketing playbook was one of interruption, cold calls, advertising, etc. It was marketing with a hammer. But today it's all about permission marketing. And in the current climate, the buyer is well informed, of course, and the buyer journey is fluid, not linear, fluid and random, and it starts with Google. And the marketing playbook is one of thought leadership and content creation. So it's marketing with a magnet rather than a hammer. So we can and do shop online, of course, in ever-increasing numbers, and Amazon is certainly the greatest recipient of this. But how much is it really hurting our market?
My first question is, why do we keep calling it office products? If you think about the addressable market, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit more detail with some of my other questions, office products, traditional office supplies, EOS, is about a third of our addressable market. Okay? We think the addressable market is about £15 billion. There's only about 5 billion of that is traditional office products. And that market has been and will continue to be in decline. We estimate somewhere between 6 and 8% decline year on year because of the digitisation of the office, okay? The rise of this thing called the internet. In my opinion, we should be talking about business supplies, business services. If you open your mind to what an end user business would be looking for and think a bit broader than just office products, suddenly you find another 10 billion of opportunity. What are we going to do about our product cycle? The whole industry is built around an antiquated paper catalogue. The more we go towards technology, the more those products are going to turn faster. What is the future of paper catalogues? There's another good question. Will people continue to order products from a paper catalogue? Should we go towards the kind of IKEA idea where it becomes more of a lifestyle book? It shows the products in situ, but actually people are going to go and order those products off the web. What are you doing about technology? Have any of you seen the Surface Pro, the new Surface Pro 3, the tablet? Personally, I think it's a bit of a last roll of the dice for Microsoft in terms of tablets, but I think it's a real game changer. For the first time, you can actually get a device that will do all of the tablet stuff, but actually a lot of the business stuff at the same time. That is going to further accelerate the decline in traditional office products, right? Because it's a filing cabinet, and it's a notepad, and actually it's a phone. But if you think about the number of products that would be replaced by these tablets, it is enormous. There are other people selling tablets in the marketplace, but going forward, we need to have a much bigger share of that market. We think there's about 5 billion quid there in the addressable market. So, dealers, we need to be a lot more serious about that. How much do you know about latex, or cleaning products, or coffee? Okay, another £5 billion opportunity. That market that we see, and we talk about FM or FS, it doesn't really exist, right? If you're a janitorial reseller, you're in cleaning products. If you're in industrial supplies, you're in industrial supplies. But the Jan Sang guys don't talk about FS in the same way as we do. We're the only ones that talk about that. Nevertheless, there is a £5 billion opportunity out there. If you haven't got the specialised salespeople that you need to sell that product, you need to think about that as well. How are you going to do what you've always done with more competition and lower margins? If those traditional office products are in long-term decline because of the digitisation of the office, and there's far more competition now, you're only 2 clicks away from the lowest price for anything now on Google, how are we going to carry on doing what we've always done? Much more specialisation, deduplication of cost and effort. What are we doing about the web? If you don't have an internet presence, a good internet presence, what's the future? That catalogue selling thing that we've been relying on for so long, how long will that continue? Do you know who your competitors will be tomorrow? What are we going to do about our antiquated pricing models? How sustainable is that model where you go in and you offer cost less 40 or cost less 50 on a core basket of 200 or 300 products and you make 80% margin on the rest? It's not sustainable, right? I'll tell you why it's not sustainable. 2 reasons. One is long-term decline on those products anyway. And the second reason is that most of the procurement guys now have woken up to that. And actually what they're doing is reducing that basket. But I do think that we really need to think seriously about the way in which we're doing business. And we can't just sit there and continue to say stationery and office products have a future. We need to think about how we're going to treat that differently.
I'd like to take a little look today at the changing world around us and some of the macro trends that we see, and then go on to say what are the things we should be looking at and what we should be doing in the future. Well, even the big 4 social media companies are about to be overtaken by the big 4 message application. And increasingly we hear more and more talk about robotics. Here's an example of a US Army funded project through Boston Dynamics. That company, along with around 5 or 6 others, were acquired by Google in 2013. Google themselves have been experimenting, for example, with the chauffeur car. It's now been on Californian freeways for the last several years, doing hundreds of thousands of miles, with only 2 reported accidents. People like Gartner tell us we're about to embark on the most disruptive period in our history, as smart machines become the norm over the next 10 to 15 years. Gartner, for example, have said that if you look to 2025, 1 in 3 of today's jobs will be done by a smart machine. And before you all think, well, that will mean some low-level jobs, some manual factory type jobs. They've gone, they've been done. Those jobs have already being done by robots in many, many cases. We're increasingly talking about middle skill level jobs. We have to be careful about a couple of traps that we might easily fall into. The first of those traps is, none of this has any relevance to me. This is all nonsense, rubbish, it won't affect the way we do business. Just shortly after Microsoft and Apple were both founded, the chairman of Digital Equipment said exactly this, that there was no place for a PC or a computer in the home. By the mid-1980s, Microsoft and Apple were fast becoming the powerhouses in computing. Digital equipment no longer existed. The other mistake we often make is we say, well, the world is at an end and we're all doomed. And so we might as well jump in that hole right now. We've been predicting the demise, for example, of mail, and particularly direct mail, for many years. In fact, direct mail grew last year and is predicted to grow again this year. Parcel volumes are up. And even in 2023, if you believe PwC, we're still going to be shipping something like 9 billion letters in 2023 and some 2.5 to 3 billion parcels. So mail is by no means dead. And of course, that long-awaited, theorised 1970s idea of the paperless society seems, in many cases, as distant today as it did back then. Our love affair with paper is nowhere near at an end. There are 4 P's in marketing, and we need to concentrate on thinking about good marketing generally, marketing 101. In our industry, too often our conversations revolve around just one of those P's, and we have to move the conversation increasingly away from price. We also need to make sure that we're adding value and providing good promotions that mean something to consumers, not the same nonsense that we trotted out last year that didn't really do anything, and not being lazy about finding promotions that can kind of work and not bothering to measure them. We need to increasingly measure and work out what works here. Is there going to be further consolidation? Well, almost certainly. The larger are going to get larger for sure. And will there be consolidation in mid-sized dealers and small dealers? Yeah, probably. The rules of economics kind of suggest that it's got to happen. We've also got to consider the adversarial nature of the relationship between customers and suppliers. We've got to have a more open conversation, a more willingness to engage in a different way. And we've got to accept, as Kodak now know to their misfortune, that sometimes even your consumers become your competitors. And for sure, we've got to find a way to take cost out. We might all be doing it individually, but we have to find a way to look at the entire supply chain. And for all of the right strategy for doing all of that, most important of all, I think, is we've still got to be able to engage and attract the right people to our industry, and we've got to make sure that the right people are on the bus. For us, I think the willingness and openness for us to adapt to the change we see around us is imperative for our survival. 90% of all business, all transactional business today, is still done offline in the old world. So whilst there is a trend and things are changing, we have to remember not to get caught up in all of that hype and make sure that good marketing and product innovation and listening to customers and listening to consumers is as relevant as it has ever been.
Michael asked us if we'd come and do a little bit of a spiel about how online and Amazon in particular is impacting us. Mark is the expert on web trading, so Mark's kindly going to talk about it. I'm going to talk a bit about really, I suppose, give a bit of a sort of different perception to how we've been impacted by the online business, and particularly focusing on the stationery side. A bit about the online customer and a bit about loyalty, which are so key for us at Tesco. So this is what I think is one of our points of difference, because our direct range, what sells in direct, is very different to what sells in store. So our top 10 in direct is things like filing cabinets, the higher priced ASP lines like whiteboards, the big multi-packs, whereas in stores it is still the pens and things of this world. So we have a very different top 10 online to the top 10 on store. Black Friday was huge for us as a business. So we will be getting ready for a sort of big Black Friday event next year as well, even within the stationery area. So our multi-channel customers are key. They're spending more, they shop more frequently, and they capture people buying into GM. We'll engage them online to make them spend sort of more. The other thing that I talk about that's particularly key for us is loyalty. As a business, the dark green box is our customer loyal base. So overall for Tesco, our loyal customers spend about 15% more than any other customer at Tesco.
What we're hearing today is, if you're still sitting here thinking it'll go online in the future, then you're probably already a little bit behind the curve already, because it's already online. Customers are multi-channel, customers are looking for your products in every single channel, and there's multiple touch points. From our side, we know that our loyal customers are multi-channel. We know that that is our biggest opportunity to bring our store customers, the customers that are already shopping in store, and get them online.
We are an independent retailer and reseller. We are multi-channel. We operate business to business online. About 80% of our business is via our website. But my question today is there a future for people like me? And I think our sector falls into three categories, primarily. It's manufacturers, distributors and resellers of whatever size we are. And I want to share with you my fears, opportunities and concerns for our market over the next few years. If we look at the past, we were pretty good as an industry in terms of game changers. And I'm thinking of things like, the big bold moves that were done in the past, the likes of hub and spoke distribution, being bold enough to spend serious amounts of money on warehousing that works. And I think if that hadn't happened those years ago, people like me wouldn't be in business today, because we wouldn't be able to make it sustainable. We do a lot of talk in this industry and we don't do a lot of action. Get me data. I can't sell if manufacturers don't produce me accurate, useful information. If you don't have 10 photos of your product, please go and hit your marketing team over the head today and ask them where it is. Where are the pricing? Give us flat pricing. Let's play the game together. Let's get on the same page and work connected and trust each other to actually sell the product through and make a difference. We have to start making change. I think the opportunity falls into four categories. Deduplication. One of the biggest things we did as a business 7 or 8 years ago was deduplicate anything that wasn't customer facing. We don't touch our own product. Consolidation. Consolidation is already happening. We've acquired businesses, other businesses will acquire too. It's going to happen and is happening across the market. It's a given, it has to happen. There are too many people fighting for the same share of the wallet. But I think where dealers, resellers in our sector win best is personalisation. I think we're brilliant at that. People buy from people. That's what it comes down to. And that's what resellers are really good at doing. And offering expert advice. Not just, you recently bought this, we think you'll like that. We know that's what you need because X, Y, and Z. We get to know the customer personally, and we make it personally. And when it goes wrong, we care personally. Making a profit is pretty important. There shouldn't be the smoke and mirrors pricing with hidden rebates and merchandise margins and all the rest of it. Manufacturers need to open the books. Distributors need to open the books. We need open, transparent pricing. And then it's about added value, true added value. The price is irrelevant. You want to change the conversation with your customer about price, we need to do it ourselves. And once we stop talking price between each other and we start talking about adding value to the product, then we're talking about stuff we can make a difference on.
There's a much more acceptance of each other in the US. There's much more trust between the dealer and the wholesaler. And massively, there's more collaboration with data, with information. So all the reviews for all the dealers are being provided by the wholesaler, so they're getting a better experience for their customer. There's just a massive more range of collaboration opportunities going on in the US than I see here. Believe it or not, 50% of core channel sales in the US is pretty much Staples. And you may or may not know, but around about $1.5 billion of turnover for Staples now is FS, FM. They're one of the biggest resellers of FM, FS products in the whole of North America. But they are way ahead, absolutely way ahead in that marketplace. So in the next 3 to 5 years, I think there will be acceleration and consolidation over there. Again, that number, that top 75 may reduce down, or the value that they're responsible for will increase. There's definitely conversations going on about mergers and acquisitions out there at a big level, as there is no doubt here. So what can we learn? I think we do need to move faster. I see a huge amount of half empty, not half full. The difference between the two marketplaces is, I've got a good idea, a new idea, come tell me about it. I've heard it all before, thanks very much. We tried that 10 years ago, we all the time. Or here's something that's really good for you, it does 100 brilliant things, yeah, but it doesn't do one, so I don't want it. Thank you very much. All the time, that's the difference, yeah? It's a huge difference It's too good to be true versus let's give it a go. Dealers are starting to change what they call themselves and how they position themselves. And I'm sorry saying dealers, let's say resellers, the whole channel is, yeah? It's business supplies, it's services, it's equipment, it's everything that an office needs. It's not just one-stop shop stuff that we've talked about for years, yeah? It's widening that. And I honestly believe there's one group in this industry that need to get closer to the consumer, and that's the manufacturer, yeah? And there's not one manufacturer I don't talk to that doesn't consider going direct. And with technology and the development of technology, would it not be easier for them to go direct?
The reason why I'm talking about something different today than I normally do is because Michael's asked me to talk about my views on the traditional mid-size office products dealer, something that maybe 24 to 48 months ago I knew very little about. I think the super dealers will grow. We talked about new channels emerging. Mobile is here to stay, and that's an example of a channel that will emerge. And I think the mid-size dealers will shrink, they'll die, or they'll get eaten. Okay, there is a fourth option there, and that is that they will change. Okay, but I believe that if they don't change, then these dealers will disappear. There was this phrase coined about the welfare state, and I sat in some meetings with small dealers, liaising with their wholesalers, and some of the demands that these dealers were putting on their wholesalers really surprised me. So I think wholesalers will scale back on that. They'll scale back at that because on the smaller customers, the smaller dealers, they don't need to do it anymore because they can pick up that, and also because they got bigger fish to fry. So this value add welfare state, I think, will shrink. I think there will be continual margin pressure. I think sale price deflation will continue to come down. 2025, 75% of the workforce will be Gen Ys or millennials. They have higher expectations. It's proved by sociologists. So their expectations of that channel experience, that multi-channel experience will be there, and they will move to emerging channels. They're going to need this multi-channel approach. Okay, what I call the low emotion, high volume transactions. I need an ink, a cartridge, I need it tomorrow, it's 6 p.m. Okay, the traditional dealer is long gone by 4:30. Okay, it's 6 p.m. How am I going to order it? I don't want to have a long chat about my holidays. I just want to order a cartridge that works on a phone or a device, and it works online. So the expectations of our customers, of the independent dealers' customers, are changing. Yes, loyalty will decline. Okay, so this means personalization is really important because that's a way that you combat a decline in loyalty or an increase in fickleness, if you want. Fighting for each customer will become more important. It's the most important item on the agenda, I think. But there's no point in winning that customer if the way that you win them is to drop your margins even lower or to put in service models that just aren't efficient. Okay, it has to be about the bottom line. And if you can't drive profit through your model, then it doesn't matter how good you are managing or servicing that customer or keeping it loyal, you will fail. That's a fact. So we have to focus on the customer, or the traditional dealer does, but they have to find different ways of doing it. So what do they have to do to survive? Well, I'm a big advocate of efficiency, and you know this, and I really believe that fixed cost model needs to change within a traditional dealer. It's just, I just don't think it's sustainable. It is for some, but for most, that model of having a warehouse, a small warehouse on the outskirts of town, having a couple of vans, okay, and having some salesmen with some nice cars, I just don't think that works when you're seeing the pressures that we've talked about earlier. So I think you've got to change the model. You need to be focusing on the customer, and I think that means that the dealers need to reallocate resource, because I see so many businesses where they've got back office staff and all of this stuff. I don't think that will work in the long run for everyone. I really think that things need to change. The last bit which scares me is a lot of these businesses that I go and see, sometimes they prefer to just sit quietly as things dissipated and died, rather than actually go through that quite difficult thing of driving change. And I guess that's the bit that is the only question that I've got is does that part of our industry really want to change, or would they rather, because they're a bit tired and it's been a bit tough, would they rather just kind of wean away and see out their days?
We have to change, and the question is when and not what. And we can debate what the change is, but is it forced change or proactive change? That'll be the question. So we're investing heavily, quite openly, in our online route to market. To be very clear though, we don't mix those channels. We firmly believe there are separate routes to market. We firmly believe some are mature, some are not mature, but we will leave those channels separate. We sell commodities. We mightn't think we do, but I believe we do. And that's fundamental, because that aligned to the route to market that Simon mentioned means everyone's trying to take a little bit of margin. But trying to take a little bit of margin in a commodity business is a difficult thing to do. And in actual fact, looking forward, it's all into computers, technology, as Simon said, mobile phones that can do everything we need to do. We can sit at meetings with iPads, take notes. It's an interesting situation. Having said that, I'm glad to say we do still sell a lot of pens. So there's always going to be a sale for paper and a sale for pens. But the facts are that the common commodity office products are in decline. There is nothing to substitute them except for technology, and therefore we have to be aware of how to reclaim our business and reclaim our margin around those lines of business. The route to market, the availability and the pricing is a huge driver of the future. And unless we're involved in that driver, we have no say over that driver. So I'd rather be in the car if I could be than be outside the car, but this is a huge driver in the future. But ultimately, the key driver is the customer. I think we have to challenge ourselves how to bring the overall price position in the market up, because I don't want to earn 0.5% more margin. I want to earn 5% more margin. Delivering a pen the next day. Staples, we deliver a pen the next day to your desk. I mean, I run the company, I can't even get a pen the next day to my desk. So I don't know why we do it for our customers. So ultimately, all of this comes down to me to one thing: speed. And that's speed of change. This industry, I believe, as Simon said, is changing in front of our eyes. So I think we have to embrace it, but I think we have to try and control it. I mean, ultimately, the roadblocks are very simple. It's a price-driven market. How do we manage that? There's something I call, particularly with some of my colleagues in my own company, is in the box. Are we all so long in this industry that we can't step outside the box of office products? Can we not look at other industries? Can we not go to other conferences? Can we not have forums where we can't speak about our industry but challenge ourselves on the concepts in our industry? But of course, expectations are a roadblock. If we've already given expectations to ourselves somewhere in the route to market to our customers, it is hard to change those expectations if there's any negative connection within there. It has to be a positive message. So we have to be clear in expectations. To summarise from my side, so I still think there is great opportunities, and of all the industries I have been in, the last 5 years in Staples has been the most dynamic. Please ask yourself the question: forced change or proactive change? It's a great industry with great opportunity. It's going to be technology driven. We might as well just accept that. It is a change environment. Accept change or you will be left behind.
A little bit of background. I lost my sight when I was around 17. I lost peripheral vision. And then once that closed in, I began to lose central vision. So I lost things like edge detection and colour. To the point now where, as I look out across you people, I can't really see anybody. All I can really see, there's some lights on the ceiling, and that's about it. My story starts quite a few years ago. I think it was around 4 or 5 years ago now. The idea was I would climb this mountain, propose to my girlfriend, have an amazing moment at the peak, and something should tell everyone forever how romantic her partner was. And it turns out climbing a mountain is difficult. So halfway, we had a conversation where we decided to quit. And then we headed back down the mountain. But I'd quit climbing that mountain because I couldn't see. And that really stuck with me. You know, back before I started this running, I pigeonholed myself. You know, I quit climbing that mountain just because it was tough because I was blind. But then over the past few years, I've realised that, you know, we don't have to conform to the labels we assign ourselves, or even the labels that other people assign to us. We can always push the boundaries and discover great new things and really push the limits. You should never really stress about something that in a year's time you won't even remember. You know, should I worry that I'm stuck in traffic? Am I going to remember this in a year's time? If the answer to that question is no, let's not even worry about it. Let's just move forward, try not to get too stressed. And I think we can often get caught up with sort of negative thoughts, which can often, you know, cause more stress. And it's the concentrating on the negative which can be so damaging. A great example is, I was saying, you know, when I ran into things like traffic lights and lampposts, if I concentrated on the mistakes, I'd never go back out. But I need to concentrate on the 20 million steps that went right rather than the 12 that went wrong. And often in life we concentrate too much on those negatives, get too stressed out. So on any given day when you're worrying about one little thing, why don't you think about the 10 things that have gone right so far that day and maybe should be a bit more positive.
A huge amount of change going on.
More technology being used by the millennials, for example.
We need to work quickly now to exploit those.
The strong will survive, and I think we'll see the strong probably becoming stronger.
But I think we've got to get closer to consumers and understand more of what they need from us in the future.